You're muted, Miss Mayo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending and welcome to a special evening of the Dr. Conseula Francis Reading Circle. We are celebrating Dr. Conseula Francis this evening, her life and her legacy very briefly. And we are patiently waiting for our moderator for the evening, the Miss Ruth Rambo, to sign on. So if y'all could be a little patient with me, because I have to send her the code again. So I'm going to briefly do that.
And, just update us on your lives.
And Zora, would you like to talk about our new initiative that we're going to be doing for the month of August?
I can. I absolutely can. So in the month of August, we would like to implement a new concept of a reader's choice book. So you guys get to decide. Mom, you're calling me. You guys get to pick a book. And so after today's discussion, we're going to post a link for a survey. It's a quick, less than 5-minute survey, asking you some questions on like what genre you'd like, maybe some authors, if you have a book or multiple books that you are interested in doing, if you've either read something recently and we're like, yo, we got to discuss it. Or if you've heard of a really good book and you were like, man, it'd be really cool if we ever discussed it. That's what's going to go out. And you can do that tonight. Hopefully you're so excited that you want to do it tonight, but we hope that you guys can get it done in the next 2 weeks or so, so that we can work on another survey where we actually next month just shoot out the next survey, which will have actual books for you to vote and rank on. And then after that, what comes after May? June. Yes, June. We will have the readers. Thank you. I just spaced for a minute. June, we will have the reader's choice book for August. So you have plenty of time to get the book, figure it out, and so on. We might even have a giveaway, something like that. That'd be cool, right? Because we have plenty of time. So I don't know, maybe if we get someone who responds quickly, everyone who responds, you're in the giveaway. You're part of it. This hasn't even been approved, but I'm going with it. My own money. So that entices you to get on there and do it. So we will send that link out by the end of this meeting. Okay. You could get a free book, maybe even more than one person. We'll see what happens. Right. Or if you listen to it on audiobook and you prefer it that way, we will send you a credit, whatever format you listen to. Okay. It's your choice. We're accommodating. Okay.
Thank you, Zora. And we are still awaiting the Miss Ruth Rambo. Thanks to technology, it's always a challenge for either myself or for her to get on, but I'm going to go ahead and...
If you don't mind me asking, what's the issue? Can I help her by any chance?
She's trying to sign on and she could not find the link. Do you want to send her the meeting number?
Yeah, I'll send her everything. If you can just
have her.
Just if you can Zoom message.
Here she is. Thank you for everybody's patience. I'd hate to start it without the Miss Ruth Rambo.
Yeah, she's moderating tonight. We kind of need her.
I just don't see. Okay, she's connecting to the audio. And she is now the co-host.
Hi, Miss Rambo, can you hear us?
She's still connecting to the audio. Sometimes these things take time, so.
Yeah. I also just want to note that I got this beret from Goodwill yesterday, and I couldn't help myself. Guys.
It's giving a great aesthetic to the book discussion, and I do might add, it's giving very studious.
Yeah, you might see a reappearance of this thing.
I enjoy it. I think that should be your reading circle beret.
Well, I would like to thank everybody for attending, and while we are waiting for Miss Ruth Rambo, I will go ahead and let everybody know what next month's book is going to be. It will be Nataki Shange's Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo, another classic. So I usually mention these books after our discussion, but since we are waiting, I figured I might as well just clear up the time. And we are still waiting on Miss Rambo. I think she might have like technical difficulties in
I
regards.
think she dialed in, and with her dialing in, it's not giving her access to it that way. So I'm going to send a link right now in the chat, and if you can just send that to her and have her join from there.
You can send it to me.
Yeah, I'm going to just put it directly into the group chat.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading in regards to Dr. Conseula Francis. Many of our members already knew her, but some might have not had the pleasure of knowing her, or meeting her, or knowing what she had done during her time at the College of Charleston. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. And this was written by Ms. Ruth Rambo.
I can still do my part of it too.
Okay. Dr. Conseula Francis, during her tenure at the College of Charleston from 2007 to 2016, functioned as an extraordinary English professor, director of the African American Studies, which she established as a major program of studies. She was associate provost and provost for curriculum and institutional resources. She enjoyed a sterling reputation with her colleagues and friends for her ability to assist groups to work through thorny issues without rancor. Her wide smile and wiry humor contributed to her success in building relationships. Dr. Francis's work joyously focused on contemporary African-American literature, especially science fiction, graphic novels, popular romance, and erotica. She studied literature of Black intellectual thought to discern how African-American literature assists in answering questions about issues of race, difference, and integration. As a published author, she is the editor of Conversations with Octavia Butler, The Critical Reception of James Baldwin, 1963 to 2010, An Honest Man and a Good Writer. And she is also featured in the book, The Black Ink, Constructions of Black Identity in Comics and Sequential Art, edited by Frances Gateward. Dr. Francis was a wife and mother of 2 young daughters, who are most likely young adults right now. Motivated by her love of African-American literature, Conseula organized a community book club called Dart After Dark at the John L. Dart branch of the Charleston Public Library in 2012, which many of you have taken part in. In her honor, following her untimely passing in 2016, the club has been renamed the Dr. Conseula Francis Reading Circle. Okay, Zora?
Okay. I don't have that piece. I just realized.
Oh, no. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll go ahead. Recently, the Avery Research Center has embraced the program, which is being currently conducted via Zoom, which we are enjoying right now. A growing group of readers and occasional guest authors assemble once a month on the third Thursday at 6:30. And you can find us on the Avery website under Digital Classroom, and in the near future, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start, and hopefully Ms. Rambo will be able to join us. And Courtney, just before I start, did you send me that link? Or
She actually started emailing me directly right after, so we're working on it. She should be in a couple minutes.
okay, great. Okay, so our protagonist, Lauren Oya Omiya, has hyperempathy syndrome, an illness that gives her the delusion that she feels both pain and pleasure of those around her. Do you think it's a significance that this is a congenital disease that she contracted while her mother was a drug abuser? And anybody, everybody is welcome to reply.
I do think that's not to get like speculative medical or anything, but only so much is known about what infants, what happens to infants when their parents partake in different types of substances. So what we constantly think of is like known drugs, illegal drugs, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, things like that. Something that isn't well known of are like prescription medications, and something that might be deemed as fine for a um, for a mother to take now, we could figure out in 20 years from now, it causes horrible things to happen to children. And so this being from the future, it just kind of makes me think, well, maybe that was a fun drug that they later found out was caused that to happen, but people wouldn't stop taking it. I don't know, something like that. I mean, you have to think that back in the day, they didn't know that opium could cause what it does to infants. So,
Well, I would like to add that keep in mind that this book, Octavia Butler wrote this book in 1993.
yeah.
That's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And she anticipated a lot of the things that we are somewhat experiencing now. Obviously, it's like, this is what she wrote. I consider this is like on steroids.
Yeah, I think it was actually, that's what caused me to have that opinion, because how often do we now still hear that drugs that we've taken for half our lives or even most of our lives are now bad for us, and there are trials against those drugs, and if you have a heart condition, you can't take it. If you're pregnant, you can't take it. If you're a female, you can't take it. Or if you're a male above the age of this, or if you have a condition, you can't take it. So I was like thinking, wow, in 30 years from now, we're going to find out that there are some drugs that we currently take, even over the counter, that are poisoning us. So I imagine that, I mean, even think about the opioid epidemic. Back in the day, doctors were throwing those out like it was candy. And now there's an epidemic.
Exactly.
So it's like, it just felt so. And then even like that's almost exactly like opioids. Like, what if the medicine, I mean, I know the pills, it's just like they never clarified, but what if that medication was opioids or something like that? And then you found out that the side effect of opioids was having that condition. I was like that makes it feel more real, right? I mean, those aren't the side effects, but what if there was something kind of like that, you know? Just see, it felt so realistic. That's what gets me.
Would anybody else like to chime in before we hand it over to the Miss Ruth Rambo, who is with us? You know,
The digital immigrant.
you're not the only one. Miss Rambo, I went ahead and started, but
Yes, of course. I'm so delighted you did. We don't want to miss a minute of Octavia Butler discussion. Oh, no. Go right ahead. I don't know what your question was, but.
no, it was about our protagonist, Lauren, who has the hyperempathy syndrome.
Yes.
And the question was an illness that gives the delusion that she both feels pain and pleasure of those around her.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's a significant, do you think it is a significance that this was a congenital disease that she contracted because her mother was a drug abuser?
Oh, okay. Well, I went a different place with the empath thing because my favorite actress in the world played an empath on Star Trek, Whoopi Goldberg. And so the empath was the part that I think I focused on, not so much that her mother was a druggie, but that she had this capacity, which is amazing and certainly, and on the other hand, quite destructive. I mean, how many times can one person die? So I was looking at it from that point of view, because there are a lot of things about the book that other people have glommed onto, and that empath piece was certainly one of them.
Right. Yeah. And it was pretty powerful for what she could
experience. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. So did we, okay.
No, that's the only question that I asked. So
okay.
I was waiting.
Well, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I apologize, except I guess I would apologize, except I have to say this. The older I get, the less competent I get with the devices. I don't have this trouble with the stuff I know how to do and knew when I was 50. I didn't have the right passcode. Anyway, thank you for your tolerance. And let me say this. Octavia Butler was one of Dr. Conseula Francis's favorite writers. And one of the things about Dr. Francis that I so admired was that she embraced the kinds of the genres of English literature that most intellectuals of her stature do not. And so she embraced graphic novels, she embraced speculative or science fiction. She was open to ways in which people communicate, and did so joyously. So Octavia was one of her favorites, and this is a very different style for Octavia Butler. She had been doing the customary science fiction things, creating people who didn't look like we look, in situations with futuristic AI stuff and mechanical stuff. And this is not that. This is just what it says, a parable. And a parable is really an allegory or a cautionary tale but rooted in the Christian Bible, which is interesting in this case because our main character, dismissed the Christian theology and created another theology. That's a whole another thing. I'd love to know what each of you, if you had one sentence, if you could only write one sentence that describes what your relationship was with the book or with the protagonist or with the situation, what would that sentence be? Your relationship with it, not a description of it, but your relationship. Silence. Nobody identified or glommed onto Lauren. Come on. Thank you.
I'll say I
Thank
struggled with this book. And so, you know how you sort of read, but you're not there. And I finished, I wanted to get through the book and be done with it. I kept thinking of 1984. I said, because I knew it was written in 1993 and it was
Yes.
for now. And it was like, okay, I'm going to go read and finish this, but I'm going to go back to it and read it again. Because I was like, you know.
Where was the struggle?
Because I think someone said it was science fiction. Or I read it. And so I'm stuck, you know, I love Children of the Blood and Bones.
Yes.
That's, you know, to me, science fiction. This was not, it wasn't giving it to me. And then I started looking up the definition of parable and what a soul was. And I said, okay, I thought I knew what I was reading about.
Yes.
But so I got stuck on dumb and quit and said, I'm going to just read it just to be reading it and be done. And I finished it like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, because I started it right away.
Okay.
But I will go back to it. I'll read it again, but with a different eye this time.
Okay. Just a question, and we can come back to it. Did you ever see the film with Charlton Heston called Soylent Green?
No.
Did anyone see that film ever? I think it was in the 70s. You're saying, yeah. Was that the 70s, the early 70s? Soylent Green?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't remember the year, but yeah.
Okay. That's where I was during my reading. Anybody else want to share how they felt about it? Anybody else struggle?
Yeah, I struggled. I got my mom to send me some Spark Notes, and like she sent me a lot of links to get. No, seriously, I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't always know what I'm reading. I was at a complete loss of what kind of narrative what it was. And I love sci-fi, and I've just never read anything like it. And I was like, I grant you, I had asked her for these sources before even the plot had developed fully.
Yes.
But I didn't even understand where the plot would have gone. I was like, is this going to be some sort of like, I don't know if you guys have seen The Village by M. Night Shyamalan, but I was like, is this going to be some sort of like the inside isn't even that bad, but they're all locked in, afraid that the inside's bad. Like, I was like, what is it going to be? So that's my short story long. Yes, confusion all around.
Mm-hmm.
It got better over time. I did, but it was still, I still never read anything like it.
It is a departure from her, as I said in the beginning, it's a departure from her normal. I mean, when she started as a kid, realizing that she could write science fiction stories, that she could imagine, that she had the creativity to do that, she was writing what is considered to be the more traditional speculative fiction. But this is clearly, and the title for me says it's a parable. It's not actually a science
Yeah.
fiction story.
So
She's a science fiction. She was a science fiction writer and one of the first Blacks and to write, and certainly among the first women to approach speculative fiction as well. So, but she in her initial work, she created what they called Afrofuturism, which was the Black science fiction movie, both in all the art forms. It covered how Blacks were going to be in the future. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I just have to say, I basically have to ask, I don't know if anybody else had felt this way, but I had a hard time trying to keep up with the characters, and I was wondering if anybody else did too, because it just seemed to be so many, but in the larger scope of things, the theme about this parable is going back to the earth seed. The premise of the earth seed is that change is inevitable. So I equate
and God is change, and God is change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I equate all these moving characters, these characters coming in and out and dying, and she's meeting more as a concept of a form of change.
Yes, and the need to be flexible and malleable and creative and focus on survival. Yeah, for sure. And I did not see the major characters were pretty solid, and you had you had whatever the core group, and yeah, you're right, there were people flashing in and out, but that happens in groups. People come and people go, and she was Lauren was, despite her tender years, pretty savvy and sophisticated and great problem solver for sure. Anybody? Yeah.
So again, I was wondering if anybody else felt that way about the characters.
Come on.
I started reading this book back when Dr. Conseula Francis selected it for the DART book club.
Yes, DART after dark.
And I struggled with it and did not finish it at that point. So this time I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this book. And I think once I got past the initial, where is this actually going, it was better. And then I was thinking, this sounds like it could happen. I mean, really could happen. And then when I was just kind of looking around online, I saw where it's been classified as cli-fi, as an indication of, if we don't do something about climate change, this is what could happen. And I thought, okay, wow, how insightful for this to have been written in 1993.
Prophetic, prescient, yes, all of that. And I have to say, the fact that she focused in on the climate control part, as opposed to what even in the 90s was a waning kind of capitalism, and with more focus on corporate development and corporate control and power. So we had moved from a republic to trying to look like a democracy to whatever form of, I guess, a capitalistic oligarchy form of government. But she focused on the climate, which is really, and the fires, all of the fires. I'm thinking California, Colorado, and 26 ain't far away. Pam, I'm sorry. Jump right in.
I was going to answer your question, Ruth, about the relationship to the book. So I too kind of struggled with it a little bit because I love science fiction, but I tend to prefer like the hard science-y science fiction with aliens and technology and stuff like that. So, and it really was, as you say, a parable. It was social commentary. But I guess one thing I struggled with in the book was I didn't feel like she fully explained the impetus for Lauren's passion, obsession. You know, she's possessed with this recognition of these truths, and she makes so many sacrifices in her personal life and, you know, so forth, for this earth seed.
Yeah,
Faith,
theology.
maybe. So when I got to the end of it, I started Parable of the Talents, which is the second book in the series. And I'm going to make a strong effort not to do spoilers here, because some of you may not have read that and want to. But if I can say one thing about the next one, to your Carlisa's point in particular, in the next one, there's someone who gets elected to the presidency and talks about making America great again, and foments incredible violence against people. I mean, the second one, oh my goodness, like, talk about prescience, like my head was popping off. So I'm very eager. I didn't have time. I'm very eager. There's a series of podcasts that Toshi Reagan and another person whose name I forget did about these books, that you can find you can Google that and find them online. And I'm so interested to hear some more kind of interpretation and analysis of these books, because from the social commentary point of view, boy, did she hit it home. Like, scary how much she hit it home.
What you've shared about the second book, I have not read the second book, is absolutely amazing information who in the world would be able to recognize that a Trumpian character would show up in the real world? I never suspected such a character. And who knows? The spirit was with her. But Lauren,
Uncanny.
Lauren, perfect word. That's the perfect word. Lauren, for me, is Octavia. There's no question in my mind. And the similarity to Harriet Tubman did not go unnoticed as well, particularly the camouflaging herself as a man during part of the journey when they were being threatened, because as I understand it, Harriet Tubman did that as well, dressed up as a man, and she was carrying people to freedom. So I saw that link as well. So there's a lot there. This is definitely a cautionary tale that she was telling us ahead of time. Somebody else was going to come in. Go ahead, Joe.
Didn't Harriet Tubman suffer from migraines and blackouts?
Yes, absolutely. That's all of, yes. So Octavia has given us something that has multiple layers. And you're talking about you struggle with it. Of course, it's not easy. It's not a simple read. This is not a simple read, and this is not a simple story.
Yeah.
But we do notice in Lauren's early years that it was her father. You know, the preacher was her father, and that complicates, of course, relationships, and PKs always apparently have trouble. But she never believed. She always thought that there was another system. Which I think when you're that committed to a concept, I think that's why you worked so hard. I think that's why she was driven, because she knew that the other system was wrong, at least for her. and from her perspective. And because she had this hypersensitivity thing going on, the empath thing. Anybody else want to jump?
Can I ask a question about the hypersensitivity thing?
Yeah.
Can anyone recall, were there characters in the book who were non-Black who had that syndrome?
I don't know, because some I didn't know the race of all of them. I know that there were other empaths. What did they call them? I want to say starters. Sharers, that was the word. There were other sharers, but I don't know if they were not from descendants of the slaves or slaves. In this case, we were talking about slaves.
I mean, to Zora's point earlier about congenital, having it be congenital. I mean, she's writing this, as Georgette said, like 30 years ago, and some of us are old enough perhaps to remember the thalidomide babies. So like,
yes, oh yes,
this book was even closer to the time.
Yeah.
But
But
what kind of babies?
So there was a drug, I think it was fertility drug that women were given called thalidomide, and it caused horrible birth defects.
Deformed babies in all manner, physically and internal, outwardly appearance, as well as internal, sick, dying, requiring all kinds of medical intervention. It was a horror. It was after polio, and it was about as well known and powerful and destructive as polio was. Yeah.
So I think, it certainly could have been based in historical reality that she, was around for. But I also wondered if it was a metaphor of some kind for people who had suffered and been oppressed. I don't know. I felt like there was more to that sharing thing than, they took that drug and then their kids had this state, this condition. I just wondered if anyone else thought maybe there was a metaphor of some sort there for that condition.
Jump on in.
Personally, I did not think that there was a metaphor for the.
A little louder.
You know what? Actually, I do think that there's a metaphor for the condition, but that's going to force me to go down just a brief tangent. I'm going to keep it simple. However, I think that there's an overarching message, and this comes back to a parable, going back to morals. Okay, so that's the most important thing about what I'm about to say. But I do think that this is kind of a satire with Jesus Christ. I say this, and if you can roll with me, because Jesus, while he wasn't a hyper, he didn't have the empath that that Lauren had. He was different, right? He was different, and he broke away from his religion, Judaism. And what did Lauren do? She broke away from her religion.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And by the end of the novel, what does she do? She creates a new religion. And there are plot holes to this theory, but like when you think, there are a lot of points that can be made to this parable moral, like in the moral of the story, the overarching thing to me is, well, crisis brings about change. Change can be new religion. Crisis also, like when something's that like people often seek, and they mention this in the book even, that people cling on to that hope. They know they're on that brink of hopelessness, nihilism. We're all going to be doomed. But what holds them back? What reins them in? Hope, which is religion, which can be religion. Most people see it that way. That's why there was the preacher that was working. And in this time of crisis that's going on in Lauren's life, them trying to find just a place to be safe and not running for their lives, what do they cling on to? Hope. What do they make? A new religion. I don't know. I think we should that's it. End of tangent.
That's a very interesting theory. I'm interested in your concept that you felt that Jesus was portrayed satirically. I am not getting the satire part.
That's so not in a comical way. So what is the word when something is done? Is that not satire? I don't mean it in a joking way. I know that satire is often comedy.
No, I don't mean it from a comical perspective, but I'm saying her relationship with Jesus was via her father.
No,
So her connection was originally through she even got baptized without really wanting to be baptized.
So in my I guess satire is the right word, but in this view, she is Jesus.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it kind of even
and who's in on she becomes the
Messiah,
the symbol for the earthseed theology.
Because of her empathy. She's special in this way that is constantly brought up. That's constantly to the point where, like, even towards the end of the book, when they're establishing things, she gives me the sense of a leader quality.
Oh yes. Without question. Yes. Yes. I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. I said she's like Harriet Tubman. I can't think of a more profound leadership role than Harriet.
But there are men in these groups, and there are men that do not know her. Yet she time and time again, as people come in, there doesn't seem to be any power play. Who would deal with that? Jesus would deal with that. Okay. What did Jesus do? He broke away from his original religion. What did he have? He had a mother who great woman. But she had a birth under interesting circumstances that other people would judge. What happened with Lauren? Her mom was not a well-to-do woman. There are other dissimilarities and whatnot, but this is just my wild theory, because I was saying, like, the moral of the story is people are always going to reach for something spiritual. They're going to reach for that religion. And the thing is, the beauty of it all is it started out with her not having a religion, feeling like a lost person, but she goes and gets lost and is found.
Yes. She found herself. She recreated herself.
Yeah.
Come on in.
In Parable of the Talents, the next book is based on a very specific passage in the Bible. So someone who knows the Bible better than me, is there a parable of the sower in the Bible? Because that might be a key
Mark 4
to
through
figuring
10.
out. I hear what you're saying, Zora.
Yeah.
Okay.
It speaks exactly to the sower. It specifically addresses the sower and what happens as the sower moves forward. I have a little bit of it, and it's a parable that Jesus shared, and he's in. And I want you to envision this. He is surrounded by a multitude of people as he is teaching, and he is in a boat on the water, and the multitude is around him, and he taught many things by parable, and he tells them behold, there went out a sower to sow, and it came to pass that he sowed. Some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprung up because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. Now, hear all of these, okay? Because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And others fell on good ground and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased and brought forth some 30, some 60, some 100. And he said unto them, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. So that's where the parable of the sower arrives. And that's all of it deals with the journey. And we see each element of that as they move toward wherever the place was in, what was the guy's name?
Bledsoe.
Van Coley or Van Cole's house, sister's house. That wasn't there. And isn't that a metaphor that the house was burned down? That they had traveled so hard and so vigilantly to get there, and it didn't exist anymore.
I do.
So isn't that sort of like the parable of the sower? It could be applied to Jesus and the word, and whether you accept it and are enlightened by it or not. And so I don't know, that seems to sort of back up Zora's theory about that kind of recasting of that.
Oh, yes.
Role.
Oh yeah. And you'll notice in each chapter, she starts it with a quotation of some sort that capsulizes what the chapter is, and then the end usually is God is change. Mm-hmm. That's the real theme. God is change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Pam, since you did read the next book. Does you just answered that, like, I guess maybe my theory kind of holds some of stake, but how would you say the second book kind of holds up to any sort of theory of, like, overarching theory of the message?
Well, so I'm not done with the second one. I'm about 3/4 of the way. But the parable of the talents is a very analogous type of parable. It has a similar message. So this idea of things falling on fallow ground or things falling on fertile ground. So that's clearly, she's continuing that idea. The thing that, to get back to Ruth's original question, that I struggled with is, where did this come from? Like, it wasn't like Moses and the burning bush. It wasn't like these ideas were presented to her, they came from within her, but I didn't understand where they, I felt like that wasn't fully described. Where did this come from, which is what drove me to read the next one. You mean
Octavia, or do you mean Lauren?
Lauren.
Okay. Well, anybody want to pause it? Come on. Somebody got to have a guess. You got to have a guess. Guesses are welcome.
I do. Her empathy.
None of us know for sure what she meant, and we can't ask her now, though there are some good conversations with her where she talks about it. She always thought she could create a good story about how the world should be. And she always thought that her father's religion was not the right one. So, I mean, that's from the very beginning.
I think it really was her empathy. She couldn't let things go and pretend like other people did because of it, because the way that people got hurt her. And so it's hard to pretend when you're in pain, just like other people are. It's easy if you can just turn your head and think about something else. And I think that her inability to do so was the reason why she maybe stopped becoming a believer in her father's preachings, and father's religion, but also, in, I guess, lack of another term, she woke up from it all.
She was woke.
She was woke. Great way to be.
There was one part that really stuck with me, and that's when she didn't cause harm to someone. And when she was asked about it, she then explained, because if he hurts, then I'll hurt.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that was
And
so profound.
Yes, I do remember that. She said, I can't hurt anybody because I'm going to feel the pain. I'll feel the pain.
I love that you said that, because like when you think of a Messiah, like wouldn't you want someone who is like that?
Oh, yes.
Who's going to because they also get off on happiness. They would probably crave it.
Yes.
If anything.
Yes.
But they wouldn't seek out pain in others because they themselves would feel it. And you know that they would feel it. What better second, or I guess the second coming of Jesus would you want? A true empath.
Yes. I think you're right. I agree with you. But I was also surprised because I don't think when I thought of empath, I thought of also enjoying the pleasure that other people have. All I saw as empath was experiencing the pain. So this broadened empath for me quite positively. Yes, I can accept it if it does both, but just doing the pain part seemed to me not something I'd want.
When she made love to Curtis and the elder gentleman, that's when she felt joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she could feel there, so like double.
Yes. Yeah. Can you imagine you get a double, you get yours and somebody else's at the same time? It's on what I'm scared. Joy, pleasure on steroids. Yeah. Anybody else want to make an observation or share? Some of you are very quiet. Oh, thank you, Carolyn, please.
I'm so glad you all explained this to me, because that's why I want to know, what is this all about? This completely escaped me. You know.
Okay. When you finish,
but I'm now, I think that your reference to the Sower, which she, I guess the verse from the Bible is at the end of the book.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the book. The whole thing is at the end of the book, the Sower. But with your explaining it like that, now I can understand the different levels of that of the book. But I just couldn't. It was hard for me to make that connection until you brought that that relationship up.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but it was just it was sort of hard in some parts to read what was going on, the cannibalism and the violence and all of that. But it was difficult to read, and to think that we're talking about this time now. She's talking about 2023, 2024, and on. And you're thinking, gee whiz, could we actually get to that point? So it was. I don't know if it was more sci-fi than more mystical, other than sci-fi. Yeah.
This is more a cautionary tale, but I see it as that. She told us what was coming. She told us why it was coming. And here we are 3 years away from 2026, or 4 years, well, 3.5 years away from 2026. and she's on point. She's dead on point. She nailed it. I don't know how she nailed it, but here it is.
Well,
So we have to deal.
even earlier, because the book starts in 2024.
Yeah. Oh, I know what else I wanted to say. Carolyn, I'm not sure you were with us when I asked the question if anybody else had seen the movie Soylent Green with Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robinson. If if it's on your system where you can get film, watch Soylent Green.
It is available on
But-
HBO Max.
I'm sorry.
It's available on two things. It's available on HBO Max, and
Okay.
it came out the same year as Miss Consuela Francis's, the same year she was born.
73.
Yeah,
That is interesting. Thank you.
we're celebrating her, so I just thought I should say that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's a great connection. Perfect. Absolutely. But if you can get Soylent Green and look at it, and you will also, Carolyn, find so much similarity. So there were people who got the message and they tried to tell us, but we were, I guess,
Wearing blinders, huh?
we were not open to hearing this. We were not open because look, there are still people who are denying that there's climate change.
Yeah.
There, a substantial body of people who are still denying. So, okay.
Well, I just hope that all of the facets, all of the elements of this book doesn't come to be. I'm just hoping that we find a way to turn it around so we won't get to that point.
Where do you think we are now?
Well, I'm just saying all the elements of the book, in terms of the, having to move from place to place to find safety and turning on each other in that way. I think that if we look at the way we're addressing people and the tone of voice and the voices and the words that we're using, yes, we're there. As far as the words are concerned, yes, we are there. But in the physical sense, we haven't gotten to that point, I don't think. But yeah.
How far away let's weigh in on that. That's a good question. How close do you think we are to the parable of the sower 2026? Just
minus the cannibalism, like.
I agree, unfortunately.
we certainly, our behaviors are intellectually cannibalistic. We've seen demonstration of that and over and over and over. The actual physical part of it. I hope I'm not here when we come to that. That's all I can say. Anybody else? What do you think about
I just don't think
we are to 2026? Go ahead, Carol.
I just think that there are enough of us with good sense. It's when good people say nothing that these things happen. And I still believe that there are enough good people left who will prevent us from going over the cliff. I just want to believe that. I'm one of them, and I think there are many more who will prevent us from going there.
That's
I
a good
believe
way
too.
to-
I believe that. I really do.
I was going to say, Zora had mentioned that as well. Okay.
That's a good point to end. I mean, it's at least it's on the positive.
I'm glad that you were as optimistic and you see that we aren't going to go. Are you saying we're not going to go to 2026? We won't get that far. We'll get to the cliff and we'll be teetering on the cliff, but we won't get to 2026.
Exactly.
Is that a fair summary? Okay.
I think so. I just don't think that there are people who are going to go that far. We will come to a reckoning. And I think that there'll be enough good that will prevent us from destroying ourselves, because I mean that self-destruction is what it is.
Mhm.
Can I one thing back to your question about struggle or relationship to the book. Another thing that I struggled with the book was this idea of going to other planets.
Yeah.
I have a very strong opinion about this, so I'm just going to share it. I feel like, at least the Elon Musk version of it, like I think we have no business. I mean, I would go to planets if you want, but for goodness sake, take care of the one you have. Like I'm not, like I don't like this, oh, let's just go colonize Mars and Alpha Centauri and, like, let's take care of this one. And I think Earthseed is an interesting idea because on the one hand, she's saying, go out to other places in the universe and spread the seed. But at the same time, Earthseed also has this meaning of we are of this place. We are so profoundly of this planet and this creation. So I don't know. I think there's something pretty deep there, just saying.
Thank you for saying that. Great. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that notion. Yes.
I do want to
Booker T. Was it Booker T? Booker T. Washington was famous for saying, cast down your buckets where you are. In other words, use what you got, take where, solidify where you are. And then you can talk about Alpha Centauri or some whatever.
Well,
Amen.
Now, I wanted to ask, because your friend, the digital immigrant, was not here on time, and please accept my apologies for that. We had planned to celebrate Dr. Conseula Francis's birthday, and we were going to do it in a certain way. And if you would not mind staying with us a couple of minutes more, should we?
I'm sorry, Ms. Wambo, but because of the sake of time, we
don't have time to do it?
No, we already did it.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, when I came on, I did. Oh, great. Perfect.
But you are credited for writing the verse.
Oh,
because you did.
Acknowledgement is not what I'm looking for. I just wanted to
I know.
make sure that we acknowledge the reason why we gather monthly, which is because Dr. Francis thought we ought to, and we think that we ought to do what Dr. Francis thought we ought to do. So we're here.
I hope we
made happy birthday to her, and thank you to her mother and father.
It's called being obedient.
Yes.
It's called being obedient.
Thank you so much.
Her birthday was April the 3rd, just FYI. And we do want to bring to your attention before we part is that Zora and myself put the link for the survey, the Reader's Choice survey, in the chat. If you don't get it, then I will also email it in our upcoming email
and
in regards to next month's book.
So click either link. I see Miss Carolyn has added her email address. So Mom, please collect.
Yes, I'm taking it down. Thank you for joining us. We love new members.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much.
And I just want everyone to know that you can complete this survey on your computer, on your tablet, or on your cell phone. So don't worry if you're not on, if whatever you're on right now, you can complete it, or if you need to complete it later as well on a different device, it'll accept it. So we really appreciate it. And tell everybody else to do it too, if you know that they typically come, or if you want to invite somebody.
Yes, please.
The more the merrier.
All are welcome, always.
Yes.
Well, I thank Rosalind Harper for inviting me. Thank you, Rosalind.
You're more than
Thank
welcome.
you. Very good choice. Thank you.
So with that,
Now, did we announce the book for next month?
yes, did.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot.
But you can do you
I had to fill up the
I
time.
just want to make sure, because somebody said they started, Carly said she had started right away. So, some people start right away and some people wait a long time.
Well, I will say it again. Nataki Shange's book on is a classic, Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo. And again, I will send out an email, my monthly email, and we will also include the survey link also in that. So
Great.
I hope that we made Dr. Conseula Francis proud of us.
Yeah.
I hope she's smiling at us.
I'm sure she is. I'm convinced that she is.
And we couldn't do this without our wonderful members. So thank you so much for joining us. And for those good people on YouTube, we are on YouTube. So if you see this now or you see this at a later date, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you again next month. And just to get you the date, it will be May, if I'm not mistaken, the third week in May, which is May the 19th. So
Please
until
do those
then,
surveys, guys. Please do them. We want to know what you want to read.
yes.
Yeah. We'll read your book, your choice.
Yes.
Take care. Have a great month.
Bye,
See you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.